Welcome to Fly on the Wall, a podcast where you have the opportunity to listen in on a live coaching conversation. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And now for today's episode.
Well, dude, let's jump into it, man. What do you want to talk about today? How can I serve you?
Well, I got a few different directions that we could go. I'm interested in your personal development. How do you keep growing? How do you keep fresh? Like, what's your kind of routine for doing that?
Yeah, no, that's great. That's a good question. Yeah, for me personally, there's a few things that I do. One, I've never not had a coach. I've had a regular coach I shouldn't say all of my life, for the last 13 years at least. So I have I have three different coaches. I have a spiritual coach. His name is Eddie Rentz. He helps me spiritually, keeps me in line. And then I have a leadership coach. His name is Sam Chan, and he is my leadership coach. And then I have an organizational coach, and that is Dan Ryland. So Dan, I've been getting coaching from that guy for at least 12 years now. So I think one of the big things for me is here's the thing, I think, Kyle, is that I constantly have a voice in my life, constantly. It's never, I get coaching from this guy, and then maybe 8 months later I talk to him again, and then maybe once a year we get together. It's like, no. That doesn't work in the gym, and that's not going to work developing yourself. Mm-hmm. If you can't go to the gym once and go every 6 months like clockwork, I'm going to go to the gym. Well, that's just not going to work. You got to go all the time. You got to be consistent. So one is definitely, and I would say the number one thing is I have consistent voices in my life. I think a lot of people do confuse. When I ask people if they have a coach, they'll usually cite some spiritual leader in their life from the past. And I'm like, that's great, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm not just talking about the spiritual side. What about your organizational side? What about your leadership side? What about someone that's challenging you? What about someone that's talking to you about, hey, what about structure? What about strategy? How are you growing? How's this developing? What are you guys doing for this? Most people just cite a spiritual person. So I would say that you need that, but I would say that for me, I have constant people pouring in, and I read a ton. And when I read, there's something different I do in the reading. I'll tell you that I don't know if everybody does it. When I'm done reading a book or whatever, if you go into my laptop, you'll see a file called teaching formulas. And I'm not talking about scripture teaching, but from leadership standpoint, from my own personal life, I'll read a book and then I'll download maybe a page and a half or 2 pages of everything I learned in that book and what formulas I learned. Like, wow, that's 5 amazing ways on how to handle conflict. That's 3 incredible ways on how to create momentum. Wow, that's 4 different ways on how to cast vision. So I read a book and I'll put it down. I read the book and then I go through and I'll spend probably a good hour and a half downloading the highlights from that book so that I have them in one long file of like, man, that's how you do that. That's how you create momentum. That's how you cast vision. That's how you deal with difficult staff. So I would say those 2 areas: continual, consistent coaching and reading, and then downloading what I read into what I call the teaching formulas.
That's fantastic, man.
Yeah. But consistency is the key, Kyle. Anybody that's been around me enough knows that I always say, everything you want is waiting for you on the other side of consistency. It's like, man, I want to have more money. Well, save regularly and pay down your debt. I want to be in shape. Okay, well, then you're going to have to do this consistently. I want a good marriage. Well, you're going to have to do this consistently. I want to be a great leader. A stellar leader. Okay, but you're going to have to do this consistently. And most guys, I think, would agree with that, but not everybody does it.
It's just like getting a coach in the gym. It's subjecting yourself to a certain amount of pain, right? Probably the things that your coaches say aren't always comfortable, that you don't always love what they have to say.
Nope. I don't.
I hear you say that and I'm scared to death. just being honest. Just being honest, right?
I'm like, this is thinking. There's one of my coaches, and I won't say his name, but man, does that guy can get in my girls sometimes. Like, why are we still struggling with this? I mean, I feel like we've talked about this 4 times, and I'm like, but if you don't subject yourself to it, if you don't open yourself to it, and you're like, yeah, there's this guy I talk to about once every year or twice a year. It's like, okay, but I wouldn't do that. I would be so consistent with personal development, really consistent with it. And over time, man, you just start seeing a difference. Mm-hmm. Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm kind of interested in that. And I'm kind of also, I'm basically developing myself, developing my staff. What are the best ways to go about developing myself and developing my staff? I guess that was the 2 questions that I kind of had.
Yeah. Tell me, what do you do personally right now that you're developing yourself? And then what areas do you think you need to grow in developing yourself?
Yeah. I mean, right now, spiritually, I changed my routine. I was getting up early and going and doing some workout stuff. But I realized that like 4 a.m. to 10 a.m. is like my best time of the day to actually get work done. And so I started coming in, and I'm doing quite a bit of reading, but I'm not doing the teaching formulas. So that's a good note that I'll take down. You know, going back to what I read and actually, summarizing the things that I specifically got out of it. So I'm doing a lot of reading. I'm doing some journaling to really kind of go back and each week, like, okay, so this is what I'm journaling about. And then instead of just, I journaled and then I'm putting the journal away, going back and, where am I growing in these areas and trying to highlight some things that I need to see growth in. So I'm doing that. But I don't really have like a specific, like I'm shooting for this, or I'm trying to grow in this area. I'm just trying to be more consistent in doing some of the same things, reading, journaling, growing in prayer. So.
Good. Did you say you start at 4 a.m.?
Yeah, I try to be out of my house and in my office, coffee made by 4 a.m. So.
Goodness. Wow, that's awesome. What time do you get up? I mean, what time do you go to bed?
Well, in a perfect world, I go to bed between 9 and 9:30, but it doesn't always happen like that. So
and you're up
right now it's
3:15,
baseball season.
3:30, 3 o'clock,
3:30.
Wow.
That's the beauty of rural America. I can be to my office in like 90 seconds.
That is true. I live in Southern California. If you're 9 miles away, that could take 2 or 3 hours.
But not at 4 a.m.
That's true too. That's awesome. I love what you're doing. I love that you're being consistent with it. That's awesome. Tell me where you think you need to grow in your personal development strategy. Like, okay, it sounds like I'm up, I'm reading, I got the coffee, or, I'm working on my prayer, I'm working on my own personal development, I'm reading books. What do you think? I've never done that, or I used to, and I need to do that again. Where do you think you need to grow in your personal development? What do you need to add to it?
I just don't know that I'm doing a good job. Like if I were going to do something in the gym, I could easily say, I want to add, 10 pounds to my bench press, or I want to lose 10 pounds on the scale. I want to decrease my body fat by 5%. All of those things are fairly obvious.
Yep.
But in this development piece, personally and spiritually, I don't have kind of these obvious, things that I'm shooting for. And so I think, the old adage, if you're not aiming for anything, you never miss, but you never hit anything either. So,
yeah.
And so I think that's what I'm missing is clarity. Some guy said something like, in the absence of clarity, people come to their own conclusions. I have that on my wall.
Some guy, some total weirdo from California.
That's right.
With big teeth and a big head.
Yeah.
No, you're right. I wrote that in one of my books. And let me ask you this: do you have consistent voices in your life?
No, I would say no. I mean, I think that's part of the problem. Is I think in a lot of ways, I'm the leader in every situation in my life, and so I don't know that I have people that I look up to, people that I respect, but I don't have somebody that's like cracking the whip, so to speak.
Coaching you. And do you don't have someone because no one's kind of crossed your path, or you don't have someone because you haven't sought it out, or you don't have someone because you've not made it a priority? What would you say that is?
I would say I haven't sought it out. I haven't made it a priority. And also, if I'm honest, like I am, like it is scary, right? It is. So it's like going to the gym and getting a coach, and they expect you to be there, and they're, ringing your phone if you're not showing up. And so.
Right. Wow. Okay. Well, I love what you're doing, getting up early. I love all of that. I would definitely advise you to find a voice in your life. When you asked me the question on personal development, if you think back a few minutes ago, the very first thing I said was the voices in my life. I didn't talk about the books I read. I didn't talk about the teaching formulas and downloading everything. I went to the voices because for me, I would say it's my number one personal development where I've seen the greatest fruit is simply like, I just got voices in my life and you got to consider, like, I'm going on a dozen years here of having one of the same voices in my life, because I liken it to baseball because I love baseball. Like, this guy's on third, I'm on second, and I still haven't caught up to him. I'm still asking questions. How do you do this? What do you do about that? Man, I love the way you cast vision and the way you get people on board and the way you're able to work with high level leaders, and how do you become more attractional as a leader, and how do you get people to follow? These guys just speak into my life. And man, I would encourage you to get voice or voices in your life that will be consistent. Here's an interesting thing, because you said, like, in a fitness world, they're going to call you where you're at. My coaches don't do that. They're like, if you're not hungry enough to call me and you're not hungry enough to be on time, then that's okay. I got other people I can talk to. So we always say in coaching, the agenda travels up. So it's like, I got to go with them like, okay, here's my questions, here's my problems, here's my challenges. And it's kind of an interesting way of looking at it. But anyway, I would encourage you to look at voices and who could I have a voice, start with one, maybe two, not just spiritual, but like, man, who's speaking to my leadership? Who's helping me organize what the next level looks like? I know what, a pastor might say, I know what 500 looks like. I don't know what 1,000 looks like. I don't know what 1,500 looks like. I don't know why I'm not able to attract high level leaders. I get okay leaders, but I don't get great leaders around me. Why is that? And there's a lot to learn from just having voices. So you also mentioned about staff development. What do you talk to me a little bit about that? What's happening there? What are you doing currently?
Yeah, I have great people. I have great people on my staff. I don't think I have the right people on the bus. But I think just, helping them to grow their own leadership, helping them being a voice in their life in a way. And then, just having the right expectations for them to help them to be successful.
Yeah.
I think when I was young in leadership, I always kind of just thought, like, I'm passionate. Like, you don't have to tell me what to do. I'm going to go out and do it. I'm going to go out and get it done. So my expectation was always that that's how people would operate. That if they're passionate, oh, you're passionate about youth ministry. All right, I'll not tell you what to do. You'll go out and get it done. But I realized that's not the way it works. You actually have to lead and direct and help people to develop themselves.
Yep. Yeah, you do. Well, that's awesome. I'd say a couple things to that on staff development. Again, be a broken record, but I'd come back to consistency. I watch pastors say, hey, this is what I'm going to start doing. And then you check in 6 months later. Yeah, we haven't done it in the last couple of months because, my grandma's funeral and then this happened. And I'm like, okay, but man, if you're going to be inconsistent, you're never going to get what you want. And you got to be consistent. Whatever you choose, be consistent. Whatever you choose to do, be consistent. Biggest thing I love to do, and say it all the time, is I love grabbing a book and taking the guys through it and the gals through it. The leadership team, the circle. I call that leadership circles. Grab a book twice a month, go through chapter 1 and 2. Then the next time, chapter 3 and 4. Spend probably an hour just going through a couple chapters. They come prepared, already have read those chapters, but you're talking about them. You're growing in that. That is a great thing to do as well. The other thing that I would say is I think it's important. I've been to your church, spoken there a few times. I know some of the staff. You got a great church in Nebraska. It's awesome. The one thing that I would say is meeting regularly with them and helping them identify what are their personal development goals and what are their ministry goals. Not what do we, here's what people do. They set a goal in January and then they don't revisit it every week or every other week. And then, June rolls around and you ask someone, hey, what was your 2022 goals? They don't even know what they are. Most people don't even know what they are by June, probably not being by February. But one thing I would encourage you to do, first, be consistent. Second, take them through books. That way you're constantly having leadership conversations with them. That's what I love about going through a book. It creates leadership conversations. And you're constantly investing in them. You can't get something out of someone unless you're willing to put investment in. And then the third thing I would say is that accountability. Here's what I would do, Kyle. Your top leaders, your children, your youth, whatever, your worship, I would create just a Word doc with them that you keep for them. I would meet with them if I were you. I don't know how many department heads you have, but let's say you got 4 or 5. I would meet with them probably every other week, one-on-one check-ins, maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes at the most. Just, hey man, last time we met, let's role playing here. You're my staff member. Hey Kyle, last time we met was 2 weeks ago. Maybe you're the youth pastor. You had said, man, that you needed to start working on some getting more volunteers. You said you were working on summer camp. You said you were working on getting more leaders. You said you were going to start investing in your leaders. How's that going? Tell me what's happening there. Our goal is to get to 100 kids in the youth group and to get to 15 leaders. How are we doing? What can I help you with? What's going on? So whenever I work with a staff member, what I would say is, what is it that you need to work on? Break it down into pieces and then put a timeline on it. What's the big goal? This is the way I do it. What's the big goal? What's the milestones? Like, okay, we want to accomplish this over the next 6 months. Okay, but what are the 3 things we're going to have to accomplish in the next 6 months? You don't just lose 20 pounds if you want to get in shape. You lose 5 first, and then you lose the next 5. Same thing here. It's like, okay, what do you want to accomplish? And then help them break it down and then put timelines on it. Okay, so by August, we're going to have this done, right? By October 1, we're going to have this done, right? By December 1, we're going to have this done, right? And then we break it down. And then we're holding them accountable to their own personal development, but also to the development of their ministry. And it sounds like a lot, but you get into a rhythm where you're just being a coach. That's the one thing that I think that pastors miss sometimes, is that you are the pastor and you're the leader and all that, but there's a hat you wear called coach. Like, okay, how can I bring out the best in this staff member? What's happening personally? What are the 2 big goals you've got over the next 6 months? How do we break it down? Checking in. And then the reason I keep an ongoing Word doc of everybody that staff or anybody I coach, anything like that, is so I can go back and go, okay, last time we met was 2 weeks ago. Here's what you said. Last time we met 2 weeks ago, we said this. Hey, don't forget, coming up, you have this due August 1st. How's that coming along? How can I help you? That sense of big goal, milestones, and then putting timelines on it is really important. It causes them to create a rhythm into accomplishing goals for their life. Most pastors I found, especially staff pastors, they're just sort of getting by. Like, we got through another Sunday, we got through another Tuesday night youth group, we got through another. It's like, no. Where are we going? Where do we plan on being 6 months from now? Don't do 5 years, 10 years, do like 6 months. What do we need to do? So those are some of the things. I don't know what you're personally doing. I don't know how that hits with you, but I'll toss it back over to you.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's perfect, man. I mean, I think that that's, and I want to be careful saying this because I've listened to these and I hear you say successful churches aren't saying like pre-COVID. And so I'm trying not to say pre-COVID. At the same time, I feel like, for the last 18 months to 2 years, we went from being like, this is where we're going and having clear, measurable milestones to like, we're just getting by, and we need to, like, we're kind of in neutral, just rolling along, and we need to kick it out of neutral and back into gear. And like, this is where we're headed.
Yep.
So
that's a great analogy, Kyle, because I think a lot of people were there. We all kicked into survival mode. And let's just be honest, the whole world was in survival mode. But at some point, it's like, like a stick shift on a car, it's like, all right, time to put it back in fifth gear. Let's go. We got to get back into rhythm. We got to get back into planning and back into development. And just allow, when you're working with your children's pastor, youth pastor, whatever, and you're helping them create goals, make sure that they're contributing to the goals, because people support what they create. People always support if you tell them what the goals are, that's not going to work. You got to help them collaborate, and they got to be enough goals that and enough objectives, like, man, I'm going to raise up 10 more leaders, or I'm going to get 20 new volunteers, or whatever it is. They've got to be enough that it's like, whoa, that's going to take some work. Not so much that it's impossible, but it's got to be something that takes some work. You got to stretch them. If you don't stretch them, then it's just, So, man, anything else I can help you with today?
Man, that's a ton. I'm looking. I think I'm a card guy, and I've got
card guy.
Yeah. So
awesome.
I got a ton of notes. I really appreciate it. I think, man, the voices in your life, I mean, that's a huge challenge. That's a huge encouragement. And I think until I fix that, that's the one thing that I have to fix more than anything else. So,
well, I'm so glad that you say that's the one thing I got to fix, because the church and the staff rarely outpace the leader.
Mm-hmm.
You're the one that sets the tone. You're the one that sets the rhythm. It's like the lead car in the NASCAR when he's, everybody's following behind that one car, that kind of leads them.
Yeah.
If he goes 10 miles an hour, they go 10 miles an hour. If he goes 60, they go 60, as these kind of, set the track. Same thing with you. You're setting up the track. And if it goes 10 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour, it's you. But inviting voice or voices into your life on a consistent basis will change everything about you, and will change everything about your staff. You watch. I've seen it. If it didn't work, I wouldn't have been doing it for 12 years. In my own life, it works.
Yeah.
It really does.
And I think that's why that was the one thing. I got a big, I write on my walls because I want to keep stuff in front of me, and I got a big, thing that I wrote on my wall. It says speed of the leader, speed of the team. And that's what I've been constantly praying about, thinking about, like, I've got to move forward in a way before anything else is going to happen. So that's the thing I want to know about from you. And I appreciate, you hit it right on the head, is having that voice. And so thank you for that.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, dude, always great talking with you. If I can ever help you, man, it's just let me know, and tell the family I said hello.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Have a great day.
We'll see you, man. All right. Bye-bye.
Thanks for stopping by today. We hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and to be on the lookout for more podcasts from Fly on the Wall. See you next time.